Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of CryptoScoop FM. The human brain is extremely complicated, which is why it's been years and years and years of science trying to understand the nooks and corners of our brain and how it works. In fact, if you look at the evolution of AI and large language models and all of these transformer models, they're fundamentally trying to recreate the human brain. They're trying to understand its different dimensions, from memory to reasoning to cognition, and also now metacognition, which is our ability to both learn from our past behavior and then to infer and improve in real time. Basically, a self feedback loop. Now, coming from that, I have a very interesting project today for you that has been on my radar for the last couple of months, but I spent some time earlier today. Now, I don't claim to be an AI expert, and so take the things that I'm telling you with a pinch of salt. But this is my basic understanding looking at the project right now, but something for you to kind of keep an eye on. I just took a small position, but this by no means is financial advice. In fact, I just want to read out a quick disclaimer that nothing I cover in this video is financial advice, life advice, or legal advice. So if you're going to make a financial decision based on anything that you hear in this video, it's all on you. All right, guys. So with that, let's dive in. And by the way, if this is the first time you're joining me, I'm Rohit. I've been working in crypto, held multiple exec roles across companies like Polygon Labs, Socket Protocol, and Long Hash Ventures, where I've held multiple, business and investment roles. And now I've started this YouTube channel to kind of share my insights and thesis on the industry, on the evolving industry. All right, guys. Now with that, let's dive into REI Network. Okay, so I just want to first start out with broadly what REI really is, and I landed on their website. So they define themselves as a research organization, and their focus is to advance AI through fundamental scientific principles rather than conventional computer science approaches. And they say their work centers on studying novel neural architectures which implement core biological and cognitive concepts, moving beyond traditional statistical models. I don't want to dive too deep into all of these all of this jargon, but basically what they're saying is mostly what you see as which passes off as quote unquote artificial intelligence today is basically just a lot of pattern recognition, right? It's just statistics. LLM is trying to statistically predict what should be the next set of tokens based on a large series of data that we have fed it and we have trained this on. And so that's where REI Network says they want to differentiate themselves, and their goal is to essentially create an AI system that is able to think and adapt, right? Just the way the human brains, the biological neural network which exists within each one of us work. And so, they basically want to help kind of build this system which understands cognitive behavior and is capable of metacognition, because they feel large language models though are impressive, but they have they do not have the capabilities for higher on order analytical thinking beyond like statistical pattern matching, right? And that's where their unique approach comes into the picture, where they're essentially focused on our human capabilities, our capabilities of our brain for persistent memory, adaptive learning, and like genuinely processing an information, not just looking at some large time series data. So that's the basic principle behind REI. And they recently made this announcement around they basically built their own foundational model, which is a very specific model built now around the goal of making financial predictions. And they say that while like LLMs are able to predict words, but they cannot predict weather patterns. Or they cannot predict market movements. Their pattern matching on text while forecasting demands mathematical precision, temporal understanding, and domain physics. It's like using a dictionary to solve calculus. And so, purpose built models excel at doing this because you're able to like encode decades of domain expertise and create these models to allow for something like this to happen. So this is kind of cool. This is one part of what they're doing. From a business perspective, if I talk about REI, it's largely an AI agent platform where the architecture was actually something that caught my eye. Let me see if I can, find that for you. I think it was on their documentation page somewhere. If I read, let me just find this for you guys. Yeah. So, when I was reading it, I found this little diagram where, they kind of share a broad structure on how to think about their entire model, right? So they have a bunch of different products. It's called, one of them is Core. Core essentially is the core architecture of the REI network. And this is essentially built on three main pillars, which is the Bouty architecture, the Model Orchestrator, and the reasoning cluster. Now, the best way to understand all of this is that it's a modular architecture where Bouty essentially is focused on everything that is related to memory, giving meaning to the concepts within each memory, and then spotting non-obvious patterns between these concepts that you're saving in your memory. Why? Because think about it, the way you make decisions, it's not linear, right? You inform yourself. There's a multiple mental model approach where we have information from social sciences, from math, from physics, from the real world, and we take all of this information, and in real time, our brain is processing all of this and giving us ideas, right? Insights. And so that's basically the biological model that they were talking about earlier, and Bouty is one of the key components of it. Then comes the reasoning cluster, right? This is basically in our case, it's our prefrontal cortex, which is all which is the part of the brain responsible for analytical thinking and metacognition. And so this reasoning cluster in their case is the synthetic brain for complex cognitive processes. And then there's model orchestration. What is that? It's basically, figuring out, okay, this is the question to deal with, and which synthetic brain can best answer this? Or can we even break this down and distribute it into multiple different specialized models? It could be a statistical model, a classification model, computer vision, language processing, or a custom model like Hanabi one, which is what their financial prediction model is all about. So there's a bunch of these different things, which are kind of all working together to give you the insights. Now, there's a bunch of different use cases that you can use this for, and for now, right? There's what they're looking at is mostly like financial use cases, but that's not it. There's a lot of other things that this model is capable of. Like I think I read at least 8 to 9 different use cases, all the way from scientific research to coding and other things. And so it's extremely versatile. But the core model that they're building in-house is Hanabi 1, which is essentially focused, Hanabi 1, which is essentially focused on financial prediction. So you will be able to ask or prompt this model, and the model will then give you output for, specific financial predictions. Like this could be the price prediction for Bitcoin, or this could be you trying to predict financial outcomes for any other cryptocurrency, or even not even cryptocurrency, like any other financial instrument. So this is the basics. They have foundationally their core product is what is known as the REI Core, which is a series of infrastructure that allows you to create your own AI agent. Now, these AI agents, and I found this little video here somewhere, is basically these agents are basically called units, and each of these units are essentially powered by these synthetic brains, and they have their own persistent memory. So the more you talk to them, you can real time make them more context aware, and that's the uniqueness of this model here right now, guys. With Ray, I think they've also recently integrated with Hyperliquid, so you can basically run prediction on various Hyperliquid perp markets using Ray. So this is actually very cool. Now I quickly want to go to the price chart. As you can see, in its first run, it was launched on the late last year, and it ran all the way from 12 million to what, like 170, 180 odd million, before crashing down again to like 12 million, which was its original price, up until March. And since then, you can already see there is a consistent like rise in the price of the Ray token. It's important for you to understand that most of what we read and understood about Ray as an AI company is mostly happening off chain. I was going through their documentation, and I didn't find much as to how they're using distributed compute to achieve whatever it is. The only mention was their the memory is distributed, but beyond that I couldn't find much. But from a business perspective, from a crypto standpoint, the token plays a very important role, because to access these APIs, these SDKs that they're building, you need to hold Ray. There's also the agent marketplace that which is kind of an AI app store for AI agents, where you can go and discover different agents, and to access those agents, to rent them or to buy them, you will have to spend the Ray token. There's also an incubator where Ray will be used, to basically give out grants or invest in these, incubating AI agent like startups. And then, of course, there's going to be staking, where basically for people to access the Ray core services, they will need to stake Ray or hold a certain amount of Ray. There is also mention of a buyback. So the more Ray is used, the more revenue is generated there. But part of it will also be used into essentially, buying back the token, thus reducing the circulating supply of Ray. So these are some of the use cases for Ray in terms of kind of creating that token flywheel, right? There's going to be marketplace trading, staking, profit-driven supply reduction, which is basically, the profits are used to buy back the token, and then to access API, you need to kind of hold certain amount of tokens. Like I think it's about 200K for the basic plan, and then it goes all the way to 800,000 Ray tokens in order to access the more enterprise solution around this. So I think it's an interesting project. We're always talking about how these models, like especially the agent side of the whole AI thing, agents today are extremely limited, and so for these agents to kind of behave the way that humans do with high agency requires some fundamental improvements around the metacognition bit, which is what 0x research, who is the founder. I mean, he's this is an anon guy. I don't know who the real dude is, but given how how this project is very well thought of, I think he's somebody who spent like years and years in the AI space, and is now kind of using all of that know-how to kind of build this new system. It's still very, very early. A lot of these products I cannot see for to use myself. In fact, they've just started a private beta, but nonetheless, I think it's a project if you're looking seriously into AI infra as a category to invest. It looks really, really, really cool to me. It's already up like 850%, but you know how things kind of go parabolic in crypto. It already went parabolic once, like in a fast span of from December to January, like 2 weeks, it went from nothing to this. But this time it's been a slower grind in terms of its growth. I'm not saying it will go even further, or it could all the way kind of go back to like the 12 million range where it was, and that's highly possible given how crypto markets evolve. Unit 00 for me in the way that they're thinking about metacognition, they're thinking about persistent memory, adaptive learning. When I think about what will make agents highly successful tomorrow, these things become foundationally, like, extremely important. So, yep, that's it. If you have any more questions about REI Network, I would strongly suggest you join their Discord. You follow the channel. You also add this token to your watch list. I did take a small position earlier today because I think this is an interesting approach to solving the agent dilemma in crypto, and it's going to be like a cool project to kind of look into. So, with that, I'm going to wrap today's episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again tomorrow with a new video. Sayonara.